welcome to another episode of Wear Many Hats. My name's Rachel, and this is the podcast totally dedicated to the FM and property industry. Today, we have a fantastic guest with us. We have Nicola Theron. Nicola is the Director of Estates at the North Central London Integrated Care System. Welcome, Nicola.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. Did you come from far today? It's this afternoon now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, not very far. I work in Euston, in London, so
right.
No, great.
So not too far at all. Lovely. We are going to rewind a little bit for you. You can go back as far as you like, but how did it all start for you? Where did you start off in your career?
Okay. So I'm afraid it's quite a long time ago. So leaving university, sort of slightly clueless as to where I wanted to go. So I looked around at friends and family in terms of the jobs they were doing. And my uncle was involved with Camden Lock. Oh. And I got involved with that right early on. And that made me realise that actually I liked having a practical role, making a difference in terms of a local environment, particularly a historic building, which is was the market at that moment.
Yeah.
And I then became and qualified as a surveyor.
Wow.
As a result of that, I then worked in private practice. I did what was in some ways an apprenticeship now. So I worked and studied. And then decided that I really enjoyed surveying, but I didn't want to work as a surveyor in the private sector conventionally. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers doing sort of wide consultancy work and using estates as, within the sort of balance sheet and corporate organisations. Yeah. So I spent some period of time doing that, had children, then decided that I really enjoyed that commercial environment, but I'd had enough of writing reports, which is what PwC gets asked to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a hands-on role, so I did a master's at UCL in regeneration, and then set off and became chief exec of a public-private partnership delivering healthcare in community settings. I delivered 10 or so buildings within South London, and then joined the NHS. So that's sort of the long story of how I've ended up doing the job I'm now doing.
You like to keep busy. You said you had 3 children in that time as well.
I do like to keep busy, but it's I have to say the NHS has got many challenges, but it's a great place to work. Yeah. And there's really good people that work as part of it.
Yes.
And estates is something which is really important for the NHS to get right.
Absolutely.
Both in terms of hospital estate, but also which is where I spend quite a lot of my time, the community estate.
Yes, absolutely. So, tell us your journey through the NHS and sort of giving back there. Where did that sort of lead on from? Because it was nine plus years after your masters that you were the CEO and general manager there.
Yeah.
Where did you go on from there?
So that role, when I was leading the public-private partnership, we had 60% of the organisation was owned by the private sector, and 40% owned by the NHS. So my job was to keep the public and the private sector partners working together, delivering projects and delivering health centres in South London. So that took us through from early stages of exploring a building that was no longer suitable for the NHS with its sort of current requirements. A lot of these buildings are old.
Yes, of course.
And unsuitable really for the purpose the NHS puts them to. So one example I'll use is down in Merton. Yeah. So this was an old district general hospital. It had been worked through for many years in terms of how to transition it from an old hospital with beds through to a new community asset.
Right, okay,
We took it through planning. You have to spend quite considerable amounts of money on it because communities are very attached to old buildings. So you need to retain the best, but at the same time make it fit for purpose for what the health system now needs. Which is all about making sure you've got the digital capacity, make sure it's appropriate for workforce, make sure it's delivering the sort of services with particularly technical requirements, because as you can imagine now, health buildings have a much higher requirement for ventilation, following COVID, etc. So therefore we redeveloped the site, and as part of that, disposed of a third of the site for assisted housing. So that was partly to support the housing challenges in London, but secondly, to bring some capital back into the NHS to do the works in order to make the project affordable. So that's a sort of example of what my job was, to manage both the supply chain, the architects, the engineers, the planners, etc., the occupiers, which are the various services that come into the building, and then the local community as well, who weren't always perhaps as supportive of what we were trying to do as possible. So it was to work with them in that journey. And we handed that building over, and it's now a fantastic example of what the NHS is now delivering, known as Nelson Health Centre down in Wimbledon.
Nelson Health Centre, wow, that's challenging.
So it's going back to the reason I liked surveying is you're making a practical difference at the coalface. And it's wonderful when you see patients, and I get involved with a lot of patient groups and staff groups where the building it's a great place where they can then deliver much more transformational healthcare than perhaps in the old world, where it was despite the building.
Yeah, of course.
So because of the building.
Brilliant.
And the community now recognise the value that it brings, because the practice are doing fantastic things. Yes. The providers are bringing much more joined up care because of it. They've got an older people's service they bring into it, which obviously is equally important now.
Yeah.
So you see a very practical outworking of what you've done.
Yeah, that's fantastic to see a project come to life, really, and to still continue to see it working well for the community and the employees alike.
And bring that up to the sort of current times. So we've just delivered what's called a community diagnostic centre in a shopping centre in Wood Green.
Oh, wow.
So as you've probably seen, there is a sort of pressure on waiting lists and the need to get more diagnostic capacity into the NHS.
Yes.
So rather than just putting that into hospitals, what historically has happened, this is about, particularly in a borough like Haringey, where they don't have a district general hospital, so they had no diagnostics capacity to speak of within the borough.
Yeah.
And it's a borough with both significant population growth as well as needs, as is the case across London.
Of course.
So working with the landlord, Capital Regional, who were really constructive in the discussion, we put a diagnostic centre, which is X-ray, ophthalmology, phlebotomy, CT and MRI in as a ground floor and as a basement in the middle of that shopping centre.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, we've had probably, I think it's 250,000 appointments through that building since it's been open. It's been open a couple of years now.
That's terrific.
Yeah, it's a really good practical example.
Yeah, utilising space.
Yeah, utilising space. And there's been a marked increase in footfall.
Yeah.
So the shopping centre benefit.
Yes.
We benefit.
Yeah.
And clearly, most importantly, the residents and community of Haringey benefit. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's terrific. And I guess that will lead you on to more similar projects, I guess.
Well, we hope so. The NHS is quite challenged at the moment with all things going on. So we may not be able to replicate it as much as we would like to do, but in some ways it sets a really good precedent for what the NHS can do if it sets its mind to it.
Yeah, of course. I think that's terrific. Making life, and I'm assuming there's parking around there and all the things that
parking and public transport is all over.
That's it. So it's all there for you, and it's accessible.
It's accessible. Yeah. And and actually, as a patient, not that I've been there as a patient, but whenever I visit, it sucks you into buying something when you're there because you're in the middle of the shopping centre.
Yeah,
it works well.
Absolutely. So, with your career, I mean, did you always know that you were going to sort of end up on this path?
So no, probably when I first started, I thought I'd be a lawyer. And then I think actually this job is way more interesting than being a lawyer.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's quite a strong legal element of what we do.
Of course.
Because clearly contract and property law sits and underpins a lot of what we do. So, no, and I often say to those that I work with that what surveying creates and provides is an umbrella that brings together commercials, legals, financials, sense of delivery, sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do is I'm involved with something called Inspiring Future, which is going out and talking to schools around particularly getting women into surveying, because women is fairly represented still.
Yes.
And giving people a sense of it connects you with your community.
Yeah.
It makes you feel that you're delivering something quite practical. It's quite technical.
Yeah.
And it pays okay as well. So actually, as a career, it's a really good thing to think about. But unfortunately, an awful lot of people don't think about surveying because they don't have, going back to my story to start with, they don't have the uncle who works in property who suggests, well, how about it?
That's it. And that's quite common, I think.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned about females coming into this particular career. Yeah, this is definitely a great podcast to go out to let more sort of females hear about this. It's not a physical role at all. No. Facilities or property or surveying. Yeah. It's not, so it's suitable for everyone. So we need to get the word out. Yeah. Absolutely. So who or what sort of gave you that real first push in your career? Was it a particular person or was it the situation you were in?
Yeah, I think it's the situation, isn't it? I think we all have expectations with what you will do once you've left university. And it certainly was those sort of insights of those around you, which gives you a sense as to a job that is varied, a job that's outdoors, if you want it to be a job that can be wherever you work, wherever you want to, a job that's variety. And indeed, of my 3 children, 2 of them have gone into, one is a surveyor, one's an engineer. So they've gone into similar type worlds. Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Passed on the baton. Well, you're still doing it, so you've not passed it on yet. That's great. So they obviously like what you're doing. That's really nice to hear. So what does a day, I mean, you sort of gave us some ideas there of what you do, but what does a day in your world actually look like these days?
Yeah. So if I give you just a sort of illustrative of, and perhaps going back to my wood green example, because that's a good combination. And I've probably at any moment got 3 or 4 different projects
going
through in one time. So,
juggling.
Yeah. So on wood green, so one of the things that the NHS is very strong on is governance and project boards, and making sure that we have a team that is tasked with delivering the activity in the project in budget and time.
Yes,
so
of course.
Part of my role as the senior responsible officer for the estates programme is to make sure, therefore, we've got the private sector doing what it's supposed to be doing. We've got the public sector doing what it's supposed to be doing. We've got the contractor doing what it's supposed to be doing. The supply chain, by which I mean the architects, particularly the engineers, where you've got something like a big CT and MRI, because an MRI is a sort of big magnet weighing tons. So you're putting a big magnet weighing tons into an old 1980s shopping centre with all of those challenges. So obviously you need to make sure that you've got that team working in a coordinated, engaged way to meet the financial deadlines that we have, because one of the NHS is it allocates capital by a year. So it's therefore quite difficult if you end up with a delay because your capital goes into the following year. So it's managing that supply chain, managing those partners to get you to a point where you've got a project you can start on site, but you can then deal with the sort of operational issues. So it must have been this time last year, actually, where it was Christmas. The shopping centre was bustling.
I bet it was.
We had Christmas decorations, Christmas music going on everywhere else. And the little hairdresser had a unit above us. And there was an awful lot of noise being created by our quite heavy works going on in the basement. And therefore we had to find a way of managing our works around her hairdressing appointments.
Gosh.
So you have to end up having those sort of conversations, because obviously it's as important that she continues running her hairdresser.
Of course.
We deliver our basement
project.
So you're involved with those big picture things. You're involved with making sure that you've got the money coming in the right direction, that it's being signed off appropriately, that you've secured the big bits kit like CT and MRI. You can imagine at the moment it's there was quite a long lead-in time for all of that.
Yeah.
You're then managing the services within the NHS.
Yeah.
And you're managing things like what's called CQC, which is the quality assurance team that need to come and sign off any building and health centre.
Yeah.
And they need it finished. But of course, we wanted to open on a certain day, so we needed to manage their arrival and then to be open and then to run all the deep clean and then to make sure that the queue that then forms, because it had phlebotomy, and phlebotomy is a very high user.
Yes.
And that everybody comes in the morning.
Yep.
Because that's what you have to do, phlebotomy.
Yeah.
So so in the end, the shopping centre had to be open at 8 o'clock in the morning in order to allow phlebotomy. I mean, we'd organised all of this.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It didn't come as a surprise. But of course, you had to make sure the security guards knew that.
God, you're shifting things around.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
it then comes down to your technical challenge then becomes quite an operational one. And clearly there are lots of people who are doing and helping with all of this. But
of course,
you need to make sure that it happens smoothly and appropriately and
calmly. Giving me anxiety listening to what you do. Yeah. That's a lot to juggle.
So that's a sort of example of the project that you do that I get involved with here.
That's terrific. Well, next question I'm going to ask, which is, I think you've just answered it, is let's talk challenges. What's challenging you right now?
Okay. So the current challenges, so the NHS, you probably realise, is going through some restructuring.
Yeah.
And it's particularly challenged today because it's the first day of the doctor's strike.
Yeah, I know. I saw that this morning on the news.
And that means priorities have to reorientate again. Yeah. Not that affects us a great deal, but it does mean that it's just illustrative of the NHS and the issues the NHS is having to manage at the same time as we've got obviously, high flu uptake, vaccinations, etc., etc. So the challenge comes back from us is we are merging. So North Central London ICB is merging with North West London ICB. Okay. So we're having to plan that merger from a state perspective. We need to work through with all of that how we manage capital, because capital is in essence the lifeblood of what we're doing. We are spending NHS capital to deliver improvements in primary care, improvements in neighbourhood health, and hopefully to have a beneficial impact that not so many people are pitching up at accident emergency departments, because that's the part of the NHS which obviously is the most expensive.
Yeah. And
really not suited for all the people who pitch up at A&E.
That's it, correct. I really try not to use that part of our system where possible.
Yeah.
Because I know how challenging it is for you guys.
Yeah. So the challenges link into that. So there's a series of technical challenges we just talked about there, a series of financial challenges, but then the effect on the people on the ground. So our team work incredibly hard. Yeah. They're very focused on delivery, but of course there's quite a lot of uncertainty as to what's playing out more widely. Yeah. So part of my job is to give reassurance that actually we continue to do the job, we continue to deliver, and we continue to support, improve patient outcomes, which is the reason we do the job in the first place.
Love that. So where do you think the industry is heading and what excites you?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question because I am quite niche.
Yes.
Yeah. So from the NHS, estates in the NHS, we need to bring in more. It's a younger capacity. I mean, it's actually quite an old workforce in the main, the NHS. So we need to encourage younger people to come in and see the opportunities. I think the sort of benefits and flexibility and the interest of the sort of job I've talked about.
Yeah,
how we get young people in to take the baton and run with it.
Excellent.
Secondly, we need to, particularly around FM. Yeah. I don't get involved with FM, but I work with people who do. Of course, a lot of the hospital estate is quite old. So how do we use capital efficiently in order to be able to have greatest effect in improving the quality of the estate and the impact on backlog maintenance. And how do we use how do we use AI? How do we use business information to help and improve the delivery of FM and life cycle within the NHS within a very capital constrained world? So I was talking to a sort of fairly young person in the industry recently about how we can't do the big bang because the NHS has to keep functioning 24/7. So how do you evolve to that future state with a plan? And how do you use the capital that you've been allocated over a period of time to transition yourself to that future state with a plan? That involves working with contractors, supply chain partners, because you all need to be on the same journey in order to be able to create that future state. But it is it's quite a challenging one to do because government money tends to be switched on and off quite regularly. So in that future state is how do we therefore as a profession support the capital delivery within particularly the acute estate, by which I mean hospitals, number one. And how do we use technology in order to be able to support and do that? And how do we monitor remotely more effectively? How do we make sure we've maintained customer focus? How do we make it more accessible? And so on and so forth. So that's acute. That's in the acute hospitals. In primary care and GPs, in some ways, this is again, how do we bring capital into that sector? In North Central London, I have 200 practices, of which nearly half were built before the NHS was established. So built before 1948. So those buildings are not really fit for purpose for modern 21st century primary care. So how do you help shift from that old model with some practices and GPs that are doing really good things, really important things, but how do you shift that to a model where you can use digital appointments as effectively as possible? You can encourage MDT working, so multidisciplinary working. So you've got that ability to support your wider communities, some of whom want face-to-face meetings, some of which want digital meetings and digital appointments. To how do you move and encourage both clinicians and the community to see things as part of an evolution? So going back to my example of the Nelson, there was a lot of resistance because people held on to and loved the old building.
Beliefs, But
actually what we needed to do is help them to realise that the new building was as good, if not even better. Because it was accessible in a way that the old building wasn't. It was delivering a range of services that the old building wasn't. And it's that journey that we have to take people on.
I've never really thought of the NHS in that way, but I'm just sitting here thinking about local practices to me and how much it's changed, and especially post-COVID. I mean, it really shifted then because obviously we couldn't get out, couldn't see the doctors, so things really did change, which is almost like a reset button, I say, because I think it probably does definitely benefit a lot of us that can't get to the doctor's surgery because we may be working, so we can do an online appointment. I think it's just, for me, it works better. Less pressure on the NHS then as well, I would have thought. But then you've got the whole technical side, haven't you? You've got to manage that, haven't you? Make sure that's all working. Or there'll always be some sort of challenge.
There's always a challenge, Right.
But you're right. There's a lot. AI and remote working and tech, it's all there to change the future, I guess. So AI, is it a friend or foe of yours? Do you utilise it in what you do, or not yet? Or are you moving that way?
Yeah, moving that way. So at the moment, it's slightly superficially, isn't it, in terms of narrating minutes and meetings and things like that. But we're not. And I've done a couple of presentations using AI.
Lovely.
But a novice. I'd say, but one that needs to develop some more skills in that area. That's alongside all the many other things.
You're aware of it. I've been introduced to it in the last year, so I've been really using it. It just helps me with my emails, for instance, or if I just can't. That day, I might not be able to compose an email as better as I normally would. So I just run it through, say, write it in my tone. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's actually much better than I would have done. So it does help a little bit and can speed things up, especially within FM and property and project management. It can, but you've got to be careful what you put in, haven't you? Because technically it brings it out, doesn't it? So. ESG is another buzzword. What does that mean to you in your work? Is that not something that you...
Because I work for the NHS, ESG is something that is, people come to us endlessly offering something for ESG or other. I'm a little bit sceptical because the NHS is the ultimate ESG organisation in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
of course,
however, I am very supportive where organisations are really willing to think differently. So, for example, one of our projects we are developing a housing, some housing blocks for NHS staff. So one of the big challenges we have in London is both recruiting and retaining staff. And different trusts have different challenges, but some of our specialist trusts in Central London have difficult retaining staff. So they bring people in quite well because nurses, particularly clinicians, have the benefit of having the name on their CV.
Yes.
But then 5 years on, they will move on because pay is better or quality of life is better out of London. Whereas other trusts have a challenge recruiting. So they can't recruit into their particular specialisms, and then you end up with agency, and then it becomes costly. This is so we're working with the private sector to develop a housing scheme in Barnet that will be delivered and focused on housing for NHS staff, and that we hope to start on site this year or next year, and that will be the first of this breed, I suppose, of projects that is specifically designed for the NHS. It is part of the managing the housing pressure that clearly many of our young people have, which is the reason why they have to move out of London, because there's neither housing nor can they afford it. So this is a really important attempt by the private sector to really come alongside the NHS to be able to say, how can we support the NHS?
Wow, that's great.
So it's a really good example of the NHS and the private sector investor market working together to try and create a sort of win-win.
For the community as well. That's fantastic. I love that. So do you think the industry is innovating fast enough, or are we still playing catch up?
In our world, the catch up is because of the backlog issues in the health system, and there's a whole lot of reasons for that. So one thing the government have managed to do as part of the last budget was identify additional capital to come into NHS estates.
Yes,
and that's very welcome. And we're looking at how do we use that capital as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Yes.
But this mountain backlog is high. So it needs to be maintained on a recurrent basis if we're going to make a real impact. But you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. You face a lot of challenges in your role, don't you? I can see. But this is a lovely question for you. Looking back, what moment or project are you most proud of today? I mean, you mentioned one earlier. I'm assuming that one is fantastic, but I'm sure you have plenty.
Yeah. So I think, so my first project that I dealt with when I was in this public-private partnership was a project out in Carshalton in Lane down there, and we turned an old health centre into something new. And I remember we had an opening ceremony, and we had various people, and particularly a number of public sector organisations come along. And I remember talking to police constable who came along and was interested in it, and he said, what this building has shown is that this community is important to us.
Yeah.
And it is both the building, but also the sense of investment is going into what is one of the biggest council estates in the country.
Yeah.
And his comment was that there was a spirit in that community as a result of this investment that had not been there before, and people were proud of it, and people used it, and people went to the shops that surrounded it, and that there were no longer the sort of alleys and places where people were sort of
congregating
at night and all that stuff. So, it was an anchor for that wider community to feel a pride and to feel a confidence that public services
I love that.
could deliver something that was better than had been there before. And that's a sort of example of...
very satisfying for you.
Yeah. Because
you have been involved.
These projects are not simple.
No, they don't sound it.
So when you get to that moment where you're opening it, we had the local MP who came to my Wood Green example, and again, a real sense of a group of individuals, political, economic, and technical, coming together to deliver something that was really special for that community.
Yeah,
worth doing.
And many more to come. Are you still?
We hope.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope so too.
Yes.
You're doing a lot.
Yeah, we've just got a building which we should be getting practical completion in Islington, in one of the big estates in Islington. And again, it's illustrative. It's the last public service that's in that estate. Wow. So again, it's really important that these big housing estates have that anchor and have a sense of that there is public services supporting them.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh. So even after all the challenges that you have, that's something that on that opening day. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's lovely. I love that. So what's something you wish you knew when you were starting out?
That's a good question. So I think... So I went to a school's presentation where I was asked a similar question and a group of probably 14, 15-year-olds. Yeah. And the answer I gave them is that we all make mistakes.
Yes.
And in some ways it's better to be upfront when you've made a mistake and just address it and deal with it. We all make mistakes.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
The system needs to be able to cope with it. Yes, much better to deal with it early. Rather than let it grow and develop. But that recognition that, you are, just because you've made a mistake doesn't make you the exception.
Yeah.
Let's do what we can to avoid it, but nevertheless, that's part of life, isn't it?
And we're human, aren't we?
And we're human, and particularly if you're doing a job that is quite challenging and is changing, there is no one set way of doing it. So there's something about being managing and recognising that you will make a mistake and how do you deal with it. And that's not a failure.
It's not. It's a lesson.
Yes, a lesson.
There we go.
Yeah. And then I think the second, so when I started I did my master's, so I did it in a year.
Gosh.
And I'd had a couple of health challenges as well. So it was a complicated year. But somebody said to me, good enough is good enough.
Yes.
And sometimes you need to say to yourself, don't you, that actually good enough's fine.
Yeah.
Don't always think you've got to be the best.
Tell everything.
And everything's got to be perfect.
That's a good bit of advice.
Yeah.
Well, that is.
Yeah.
So if someone came to you tomorrow saying, I want to do what you do, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So I would completely encourage them to do it.
Yeah.
There are some really interesting jobs in the sort of world that I'm now in. It's as much your technical skills as your people skills that you need to bring energy to it. You need to bring patience to it. You need to bring resourcefulness to it. And if with all of that, this is a great job.
Yeah.
I also am really clear that for many people coming into something like the NHS or a public service, it's not something you're going to do forever. So my encouragement to the team is that we're working in the NHS for 5 years.
Yeah.
You get lots of experience. You meet some really interesting people. You're part of great teams. You might then go back into the private sector and do something else. Yeah. Earn a bit more money.
Yeah.
But actually starting in somewhere like the NHS is a really good way of doing it and learning on the job.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So that's a good place to start to do what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch off from work. What do you like to do outside your day job?
All right, okay. So I always start my day and finish my day with, I start my day with, I take my dogs out for the walk.
Yep.
Early. It was very, very misty this morning. I was slightly wondering whether I was going to survive it, but nevertheless.
It was misty.
It was really unbelievable. And then I typically work and then have a swim in the evening.
Oh, wow.
So that sort of makes sure I know that the day is started and finished.
Yeah, balance.
Yeah. So exercise is important.
Yes.
I love London. I love doing all the things that London has to offer, theatres and
we're lucky.
all that stuff. Yeah, and we are really lucky, aren't we? I love doing things with friends, family. And I'm involved with our local church. And for example, on Sunday, we had the carol service for our local care home.
Oh.
I play the clarinet. But I play the clarinet.
Yeah.
So I went along and tootled away my clarinet. But it was just amazing because a lot of these old people have got quite severe dementia. So therefore, conversations are quite difficult to have with them. Give them away in a manger, they know the words.
Love that.
So it was fantastic to see. There were probably 15 of us or so in the room, just enjoying Christmas for what Christmas is, which is a group of people recognising that they've come together, singing and being part of something they've known for so long, and just acknowledging the amazingness of the Christmas story. So I use that as a bit of an example for what else I do.
That's what you're doing now. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you swim as well. It's great for your switching off in mental health and the walking, the dogs.
Yeah.
What dogs do you have? Sorry.
They're 2 collies, so they are slightly energetic. Yeah.
Oh, I had a bearded collie when I was growing up. Beautiful dog.
Yeah.
Very energetic. Yes, absolutely. More than 2 walks a day.
Yeah.
So last one, what's the best bit of advice you've ever been given?
So I think I've always worked. Yeah. And I think the advice I have both been given and also given to others is that I worked 4 days a week when my children were small. So I had 2 afternoons off. So I used to finish work at 2:00, have 2 afternoons off. And that was a really important way of retaining both a job you enjoyed, but also having some time off with the children whilst they were still quite small.
Yeah.
And that it's quite easy just to switch off or stop work, and then it's really difficult to go back into work.
Yeah.
Keeping that,
try and keep a balance.
That balance. Yeah. So I always remember, and you know, you can take advice or not, but I heard that and I thought, actually, no, PwC was a really good employer for being able to work different hours. So
flexi,
So basically that was my 4 days a week.
Even then, that's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, even more so now, people are more, receptive to flexible working, remote working, so it's easier for parents. I like that.
Yeah. So that's, over and above all the other things I've talked about, I think that would be the thing that I have most enjoyed. Yeah. And it enables you to have a sort of, in your wearing many hats, you have your work hat, and
that's
then
it.
You have your
home hat
from school hat. It adds quite a lot of stress to your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you might thrive on a lot of stress, or not stress, but a lot going on. You seem to thrive in it. You've done a fantastic job. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicola, for coming along and sharing your journey with us, and hope to see more projects from you with the NHS in the future. Looks like you're doing a fantastic job, so well done, and congratulations on all your projects.
Thank you.
So if anybody would like to do what Nicola does, feel free to reach out to you on LinkedIn. Or you're on LinkedIn, aren't you? If you've got any questions for, especially how to get into this career, I'm sure Nicola can give you some tips and some pointers. And that's it for today's show, I'm afraid. Thank you so much again, Nicola. It's been a pleasure to have you on and hear your journey. Until next time, so please do like, share and forward on to friends, family and anyone wanting to get into the industry. And that's it. Take care.